A one and a two and a chick-a-boom a chick.
You've heard me say this before, knowing your numbers is everything. And when you combine that with seamless communication, efficient scheduling, and clear job costing, your remodeling business can really take off. That's why I recommend JobTread, the all-in-one construction management platform. From estimating to invoicing, JobTread gives you full visibility into how your projects are performing in real time. It helps you stay on budget, on schedule, and focused on profitability. What I especially like, it's simple to use. It gives remodelers like you the tools to grow with confidence. Give it a look at JobTread.com. And if you're thinking about attending their annual JobTread Connect conference, it is in January in Dallas. And you can save $100 when you get your ticket before the price goes up on October 3rd. We'll be there. We would love to see you. Go check out JobTread.com. Welcome, everybody, to the Remodelers on the Rise show. I just met my new friend and guest, Pete Burak. Burak. I just should have practiced that 4 or 5 times. Pete Burak. And I know a little bit about him. I know we have a mutual friend and my friend and client, Matt Jenkins. And I also just learned a little thing right before we clicked the play button. I said, you're from Plymouth, Michigan, because I assumed he was in that town. But he's actually from Saline, Michigan. So, Pete, a little quiz related to Saline, Michigan. Back in the mid-90s, there was a quarterback who went on to play at Michigan State University. His name for the Saline Hornets was?
I am a University of Michigan man through and through. I haven't thought about the Spartans in a long time, other than one Saturday a week. So, and I'm a Ypsilanti boy by birth. So I don't even know if I could tell you. I could. Yeah, no, I'm kind of embarrassed. Normally, I know
so
these things.
Yes, your Saline history is a little tight. His name was Derek Deller, my cousin. One more Saline high school football quiz. Back in 1965, the quarterback for your Saline Hornets was.
I have no idea.
Wrong. Bill Hunt, my father.
Oh, get out of here. Okay.
Yes, my father grew up in Saline, right there on Maple Street. You don't happen to live on Maple Street, do you?
No, we don't. We live by the township office, but we're right on the edge of Saline.
Pretty close.
No, I didn't know that. That's
exciting.
Then
Bill Hunt's first gig was at the Dairy Queen. That Dairy Queen was there in the 60s, and he said it was the greatest job he's ever had. He was the guy kind of in the back cleaning things, but he also took care of all the mistakes. So if somebody made a mistake, did the wrong thing, they'd bring it back to the back, and then he got to partake in that.
Wow, that's like playing the dad role at a Dairy Queen. It's just like, you're not going to finish that? Sure, I'll take care of that. Yeah.
Yes. So you're kind of hoping, you wanted a twist cone, not a vanilla cone, and then it goes back to Bill. So Saline is near and dear to my heart, and now that I know that. And that ends the trivia side of things, folks. Pete was introduced to me through the aforementioned Matt Jenkins. They are friends. They talk life and faith and business and all those types of things. And when I was asking Matt, or maybe even just my broader community for some podcast guests, Matt suggested Pete from a leadership standpoint. Pete, it sounds like you do a lot of talk around the leadership side. Why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll talk a little leadership. And I bet you everybody listening to this, if they listen through the entirety of this, is going to have some practical takeaways. That'll be our goal today. Pete, go ahead and introduce yourself if you would.
Yeah, very good. Well, it's good to be with you, Kyle. Thanks for having me on. Most importantly, I'm married to my wife, Kate. We've been married for 14 years, and we have 5 wonderful children that we love very much and like most of the time. 3 girls and 2 boys.
Wait, is there a difference between loving our children and liking our children?
Yeah, definitely. I love them all the time equally, without question. I would die for all of them, and sometimes they annoy the, loving whatever out of me. But most of the time, that's not the case. I think we have a pretty good time at Team Burak household. And then for work, I'm the vice president of an organization called Renewal Ministries. We do Catholic mission work around the world. We work in anywhere around 30 countries every year. and have media and all sorts of different dimensions. And I run some camps, and I'm, coaching all sorts of teams and involved in our school. So life is very full, and full disclosure, we got to just get this out on the table. For Remodelers on the Rise podcast, I just have to acknowledge that I very much enjoy paying other people to do things like remodeling, because even though my wife has great confidence in my handyman abilities, which is ridiculous because I have almost no ability. My dad taught me how to throw, kick, hit, do everything with a ball, not a whole lot with anything else. And so the first time I used a miter saw was when I was 28, trying to redo our deck, which for the record turned out okay. But point is this.
But then look at you flexing. Look at you flexing your miter saw lingo, though. Did you study for that before you became a guest here?
No, that was literally
the actual name
the
of
first
it?
time I used it. I said, I don't know what kind of saw this is, but I should probably use it because I need to make some sort of cut that I've never made before. So
well, there we go.
All that to say, I'm not on here to give you guys any advice about anything related to that, but leadership is something that I feel relatively equipped to talk about.
Pete, you're in good company. I also don't swing the hammer. I come from a marketing and finance background. So our remodelers are extremely good at what they do as far as building and remodeling. They're skilled at that. They don't need much help with that. The business side, the leadership side, that's the whole point of my business, is to help get that leadership and finance and marketing and sales up to par with their already incredible craftsmanship and skills. So awesome. We're just two non-handy guys talking to a bunch of really handy guys and gals who are very skilled. So you're in good company. And then also you mentioned, I have a little entrepreneurial streak. I did a little window washing business. I'm a son of an entrepreneur. And you also mentioned college athlete. I'm kind of curious on all three of those. What entrepreneur thing was your mom or dad involved in? Give me one factoid from the window washing biz, and where did you play college athletics?
Yeah, so my dad was kind of your quintessential, in his 20s and early 30s, didn't really know what he wanted to be when he grew up. He had a wife and some kids to take care of, and he was willing to work hard, but he kind of bounced around. I remember at one point he was selling cell phones, and then he was selling insurance, and then he was the general manager of a Domino's, and he just kind of kept stumbling along. He was working really hard trying to figure it out, and then he eventually found himself in the travel business, and through a series of fortunate events ended up purchasing a company that became an incentive travel business. So basically insurance companies would hire him to send their agents when they hit certain marks on life insurance and all that. And then he did that for the rest of his career, and always wanted to just be a small business. So they capped out at, a certain amount every year of revenue, and he never wanted to build much beyond that. And it ended up being a wonderful career for him and for our family.
Interesting.
And so then he applied some of that to me when I was a sophomore in high school, I needed time every day to work on my basketball because that was what I was most committed to. And so he had this idea. We had just moved into a neighborhood with a bunch of older people. And he said, well, buddy, why don't we just create this little window washing business? Because all the old people in the neighborhood want clean windows, but they don't want to do it themselves. So I learned how to go door to door, sell it. I learned how to clean windows. I learned how to clean window sills. I learned how to go the extra mile to get that extra tip. It's amazing how many older people, when you just say at the end of the job, hey, is there anything else we can do for you? They'd say, yes, actually, there's this mini fridge that has been in this room that I've been wanting to move to the basement for years, And all of a sudden, you pick it up, carry it down the stairs, and $100 tip seems pretty great,
Bingo.
And so by the time I did that all through high school and in college, I started employing my friends because they wanted the job. I could pay them pretty well because it was all cash and all that. And it taught me a lot about sales and service and just good old hard work, because washing windows is not an enjoyable experience. I mean, nobody that I know of really thinks it's delightful to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the main thing with the factoid with washing windows is just make sure you have a good cleaning solution.
There you go.
If you get the right shine in the bucket of water, you could even miss a bunch of spots and people think it looks amazing because of how sparkly the whole thing looks, right?
There you go. And then the college athlete thing was where?
So I had a cup of coffee with the University of Michigan men's basketball team for one season. I was the last guy on the bench. Didn't dress for every game, but dressed for a few. Never got in a game. but was with the team for 1 year, and then I transferred to a little Division III school down in Ohio called Franciscan University and played 2 seasons down there. And that's where I met my wife. She was the point guard on the women's team, and I was the point guard on the men's team.
Oh, a match made in heaven, folks. A match made in heaven. Well, very cool. All right. So we got to know you a little bit through that. We're off to a blazing and wonderful start. If I were to say leadership, this big word, and frankly, when we talk finance, it's like, all right, I can teach you how to read your P&L. I can talk about markup and margin. I can teach you what net profit versus gross profit is. Similar sales, similar marketing. I do this, I fix this, and here's the result of it. Leadership is a little more elusive. Leadership is depending on a lot of different factors. The relationships between team members, the personality of the person you're talking to, the longevity, their skill. It's very nuanced. So if I were to just tee it up for you, are you a golfer?
Yes, I am.
If I were to tee it up for, did you hear Matt Jenkins and I played golf a week and a half ago?
No, he didn't tell me that.
Ask him how it went. Ask him how it went.
Okay.
Well, if I teed it up for you and just said, give me just your favorite kind of angle and topic or teaching when it comes to leadership, what comes to mind?
Yeah, I love the adage from a guy named John Maxwell where he says everything rises and falls with leadership, where he really kind of positions leadership as that critical factor for either growth or decline. That when you look at anything that's working, at the core of it, you're going to find good leaders. And you look at anything that's not working, at the core of it, you're going to find bad leadership. But my favorite definition of leadership is so simple but profound when you actually break it open. It's this idea that leadership is helping people get from here to there. Helping people get from here to there. Okay, so what do we mean by that? It means you have to be able to know what here is, and you have to be able to know what there is, and to be able to articulate that. And the key thing is there, wherever we're going, is what we would call vision, right? Where do we need to go? And why is it compelling? And why do we need to go there? Well, one of the ways you get people to be excited about where they need to go is to help them truly understand where we are right now, what's our here, and why is it unacceptable for us to stay here? So what a leader does is generates actually a certain amount of righteous discontent with the here, so as to be fully inspired by the there. And then the leader says, and now this is the path by which we're going to get from here to there. And so you can apply this to business, you can apply this to sports, family, all of it. When you think about it in those terms, like a football team at the beginning of the year, what's the there? Okay, it's a championship. We want to win a championship. This where we're going. Okay, where are we right now?
You mentioned Michigan football earlier. I grew up maize and blue through and through. And then just put this in your memory bank because you got 5 kids. It might happen to you. You raise them up. You take them to the big house. You cheer them on, etc.
We do all those things, yep.
And then they go to Michigan State.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How are you going to feel about that in 10 years when that happens to you? Remember, you love them dearly.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I have to like their decision, though, right? Yeah.
Okay. Hang on, you were on fire there. Righteous disconnect to inspire here to there.
Yes, right. We want to generate a certain we can't stay here mentality so that we're actually chomping at the bit to say, okay, since we no longer can stay here, leader, where do we need to go? And how are we going to get there? And so the job of the leader is to be incredibly intentional about discerning and thinking about and dreaming about where do we need to go? How do I help generate that righteous, or what we would call like holy discontent, certain, not like anxiety, but an angst around, yeah, you're right. It's unacceptable for us to stay in this position. We need to level up in this way. We need to get better at customer service. We need to get better about communication or marketing or whatever it is. And so then you actually have your people turning to you going, great, yes, we agree we are not able to stay in this current space. Well, where do we need to go? And how are we going to get there? And that's where then leadership is about delegating and drawing people, building team collaboration and drawing out the skills and the talent and the resources that are available to us. But fundamentally, it's about moving people from one place to the next.
That was a fresh take on it, a very clear take on it. I haven't heard the phrase kind of the righteous discontent, but a lot of times the owner has that. They're a little frustrated by it. Good leadership qualities of team members may have a little fire in their belly for it of going, We cannot continue to make that mistake over and over again. We cannot continue to kind of give a B plus B experience to our client. We need to do something about this. So sometimes we have kind of those leaders or up and coming leaders. But I liked the way that you phrased it. Give me kind of a business, maybe a business application, a business example of that. Do you see the here to there being, kind of this big thing, or could it even be just one facet of business where you go, let's kind of, can you give us an example of it?
Sure. Yeah, I think you can apply the here to there both in the macro, kind of the overall purpose and thrust of the organization, and the and then I think it should also be applied to the micro, to each team, to each department, to each goal that you set. I mean, if you think about it, every goal on a certain level is this exact thing. This is what we're shooting for, and therefore we're not there yet, because by definition it's a goal that we're trying to achieve. And any good team gets motivated by that goal in order to do the things necessary to achieve it. So it could be something as simple as a sales goal, right? So this year we did 3 million in sales. We as a leadership team determined we need to get 5 million. Okay, that's a reasonable goal. But if you apply this idea of like somehow we have to generate a certain amount of discontent with our team, our sales team, that they actually shouldn't be satisfied with 3 anymore, we need to get to 5. So part of the job then of the leader is to say, okay, if the goal is going to be 5, why is it important? And why is it compelling? And why should it motivate somebody to actually experience a discontent or an energy, or a better, maybe another positive way to frame it would be like the inspiration to do whatever it's going to require, because it's going to require probably additional sales calls. It's going to require a different mindset. If we were in the mindset for 3 million, that doesn't mean that's the mindset that's going to get us to 5 million. And people, we know, don't necessarily like to change. They don't just kind of unilaterally say, come in one day and go, all these systems that seem to be working pretty well, I don't want to do those anymore. I'd like to change. Very rarely do people on a team come to the leader wanting change. Right. Of at least I should put it, wanting change that drives towards a bigger, better goal. There's a lot of times they want change, but it's actually more kind of for self-protection, or because they want
their gig,
simplifying their life and all that. So part of what you're going to be doing though as a leader is to say, do I have the right team even? Because if you're doing your job to express where we need to go and why we need to go there, and you start to do the work of generating that holy discontent, and if people aren't responding to that, or they're not kind of rising to that, then you have another question of, is this the right team to get us there? And I think what's challenging, and maybe a difference between like business or ministry or a family life, and in ministry and family life, you tend to have a much broader, longer rope of like allowing it to take a while to kind of get on board. Well, in business, you may not have that string. And I watched this with my dad, where they built the travel business to a certain level, and then he felt like this was good, but we need to go to another level. And he had to move some people around on the team, and he had to let some people go because he worked with them. He tried to get them to feel that energy and that motivation and that inspiration to go for it. And they weren't either capable or willing to reach that with him. And so that's, again, where the leader has to be able to be honest about it, and to really carry the conviction that where we're going is so important and so worthwhile and so well clarified and articulated that I can make the sacrifices necessary to help us get there.
So the couple things I like, practically speaking, if you are a remodeler listening to this, I would challenge you to think of one element, one aspect of a here to there in your business. And if you're not watching the video version, then you get to see I mimicked what Pete did, of like kind of taking a fist and going here down in the bottom corner to there in the top corner. Because sometimes also as a communicator, as a leader, using kind of some hand motion, some visual, that does matter. But I challenge you to think about from the here to there, and then unpack that a little bit and think, okay, if I sat down with my production team, and the here and the thing that we're talking about is the client experience from the moment we get in the field for the day one of production until when we have the final, everything's crystal beautifully clean and we're wrapping up the project and it's done. The here, to really think through, how would I, me as the leader, think about how are we doing with where we're currently at? what questions could I ask my team members to get them to think about? I was just jotting it down as we were going. Where are we right now? How are we doing with this? How do you feel about where we're at? What's good about it? What's bad about it? Why should we maybe consider improving this? To really think through, how would you apply this already good concept to your actual business? You could even go to ChatGPT and say, hey, listen to the last 10 minutes of this podcast. It's really good. And can you apply this? And how would I ask my employees questions related to this specific topic? Oh, it's going to spit out stuff that might inspire you to go, oh, I can have this conversation. But you're really emphasizing kind of the vision aspect. You've just seen the there aspect of it. Have you just seen that? It sounds like to be sometimes overlooked. I think sometimes we're like, let's just focus on the here and how we can just get a little better at this, versus it sounds like you think, man, the vision and getting clear with the there, that's what's going to drive the actual change. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I would say that often, especially when the day-to-day grind in the just get stuff done and we're moving along and trying to just keep the trains on time, it can be very easy to just get kind of dialed into the here and now and kind of think of vision as this like, oh, that's a nice thing for people to talk about on a podcast, but how does that really apply to me? You know? And I'm a Bible guy. There's that great proverb, without a vision, the people perish. And what you often see in organizations or communities that lose sight of the vision is they don't die today, and they don't really even die tomorrow. They tend to die like a few months or a year from now, where all of a sudden it's like, how did we get here? Because you're going somewhere. You're always going somewhere. The whole thing about here to there, you're going there. But you're either going to have control over intentionality and clarity over there, or you're not, and you're going to find out you're going to be in some other place anyway. And the dirty little secret about there anyway is, even if you do the best job possible of discerning where we should go, and you have it on the whiteboard and you say, here's A and we're going to B, and you draw that line and you map it out, you always end up at C anyway. Like A to B always ends up at C. It's never exactly how you thought it would be, but it's either going to be close to B, or it's going to be somewhere so far away that you're going to be like, I can't believe we found ourselves here. And we see this all the time in different organizations and companies and all this, where they kind of go, how did we get here? Yeah. Like, well, you got here because you never actually charted the path to which you were shooting for. And so it's not a either or, it's a both and. You need to know and be defined by and articulate over and over. And this is one of the other things I'll say is, like, you can't express enough both where we're going and your sense of where we are, because it's amazing how quickly people forget both. And as a leader, maybe your primary job, I'm not going to say for sure, but maybe your primary job is to just be the broken record of both where we're going and where we are, to the point where it's great when teams are like kind of rolling their eyes going, yeah, I know, Kyle. I know, we've heard this before.
That means we're just about saying it often enough.
Yeah, not even enough, right? Like Nick Saban is maybe the greatest coach of all time in the college football ranks. And one of the things you see from his players is he just doesn't stop talking about the things that make Alabama football. And it just gets hardwired into them, such that, they know it. They know exactly what he's about to say next, but that means they're learning it, and it means they're formed by it, and it means
embodying it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't imagine how much Alabama would pay Nick Saban for the next year to come back and coach right now.
Oh, dude, he could just be like, I would like to own the university, please.
They'd be like, all right, fine.
Or the state. Actually, I would just like the whole state.
This is being recorded after the first week in college football, and the old Alabama coach. He's on the hot seat, folks. He's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I like that. I have a feeling, Pete, if I went back and said, hey, that was a good one. Everybody's got one good leadership thing. But if I were to say, you're going to give us 3 before I kind of ask you about a couple other topics of hospitality, a little bit of mentorship. And I was going to say, all right, that was a good one. Your second leadership principle that you just love and that you have implemented quite a bit of would be what?
You can't lead if you haven't learned how to obey.
Oh, my.
So the best leaders...
Pause.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, this man's communicating very clearly to us, and he gave us the the anxiety of a nice pregnant pause at the end there. But Pete, I'm getting to know Pete a little bit. Pete is a communicator, which is also a good trait of a leader. As you are talking to your clients during the sales process, as you are talking to your team members, especially if you're really trying to get a point across, when you get done saying it, just let it sit there and be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you,
That's
Pete.
pretty good. Yeah, that was a fully pregnant pause.
Yes, and it's important. It's a gift to your listener. If you're doing it, you're trying to get a point across, and you see them nod their head, that means you're really doing it well. And for somebody who talks at a quick pace like me and likes to kind of be go, 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 learning how to slow my pace down and learning how to actually pause has made me a better communicator. And I'm pretty sure pretty much everybody listening to this recording could either practice that more or they were just reminded of that good trait they already have. So number two is what? The pause just really distracted me in a good way there.
Well, one of the things I'm going to say number two, but I love talking about communication. What you just said there is what I call having multiple pitches. You have to be able to have a fastball, boom, go for it. You have to have that change up to slow down the pace. And then the curveball, stories and anecdotes all woven together make for a strikeout. Second one was you cannot lead if you haven't learned how to obey. And so the premise of this is leadership is by definition trying to help other people choose to do and to follow and to participate and to believe whatever you're communicating and where you're leading them. And leaders who've never actually learned the virtue and the habit of knowing how to submit to somebody else's vision have a very hard time having the empathy and the proper level of communication necessary to help others submit to what they're asking them to do. And at the end of the day, I believe that all of us are beholden to someone or something above us. There's nobody who is just the tip of the top of the pyramid. And so there's a trickle down leadership that is just inherent to the human experience. And so part of what we need to learn as leaders, even as we're giving authority and responsibility and decision-making power and all that, is to keep saying, well, who or what am I submitting myself to intentionally, so as to continue to learn and to continue to have the humility to recognize that, yes, I may be responsible for all this, but I also want to have a responsibility to someone or something else as well.
It's a good one. I'm going to let you hit on number three now. What's the third one of your favorite leadership tips or approaches?
One of my favorite things to think about as a leader is how is what I'm doing or saying a blessing to others instead of just being a blessing to myself. So often in leadership or in life, we do things, even when we say we're doing it for somebody else, we're actually doing it in a way and in a manner and with a tone or an energy that's actually just, it makes us feel good, and we hope it makes the other feel good, but they're secondary.
P, that's just you talking. That never happens for me. Everything I do is 100% selfless.
Totally. 100%. Right. Yeah. Which is why you're such a good podcaster.
Looking at the motive behind what you're doing, looking at why you're doing it. How is what I'm doing saying a blessing to others and not necessarily just kind of self-serving or towards me?
Right. And because often it will be less efficient and maybe less cost effective to do it at the service of the other, but it will pay bigger dividends, both in terms of relational dividends, in terms of emotional dividends, and then often the bottom line dividend as well, when we genuinely say, how are we best serving and what would be a blessing to my client? Not would be a blessing to me. So even thinking like things of schedule.
I was gonna say, give me a little curveball, a little anecdote, a little story here related to this one.
So if we say, all right, our goal is to serve the client, great. Well, put yourself in the client's shoes for a second and say, when would you want to get a phone call or a text confirmation? The most efficient thing would be when you're thinking about it and maybe you're thinking about it at 6 o'clock in the morning because you're up and getting ready for the day. But is that when you want your client to be hearing from you? Maybe, maybe not. Showing up to the site. Does showing up to the site a little later in the morning, yes, it's a less efficient workday, but is it better for the mom who's trying to get the kids out the door and the last thing she needs is a bunch of grown men just kind of wandering into her kitchen at that time? I don't know. Each site is a little different, but instead of just saying, oh, the way we do things is we work from here to here because that's how we do it and that's what's best for us, to actually apply it to say, what would it look like if each client was, you really thought about, how are we best going to bless this family to get their job done the way they want it, but actually their needs and their perspective is going to be evaluated first before we apply our systems and our values to it. It's an interesting conversation.
Isn't it, Sean? I'm going to ponder that while these fine listeners listen to this beautiful commercial. What's working for a lot of my remodelers right now? They're implementing JobTread. It's helping them tighten up estimating, improve communication with clients, and most importantly, increase profits. I've seen firsthand how JobTread users are hitting better gross profit margins and making faster decisions because they've got the numbers at their fingertips. If you're still trying to manage projects with spreadsheets or a patchwork of tools, it might be time to level up. Head over to JobTread.com and check it out for yourself. I have dozens and dozens of my remodeling clients using JobTread. They love it. Go to www.jobtread.com. Okay, we're back. We're back with Pete. I'm just going to say Pete, the leadership guru. Do you like that? Is that fine?
Not really, no. But
if that's
yeah.
No,
leadership companion.
Leadership companion. That one's nice. That one's better. Tell me about hospitality. When we were going back and forth a little bit via email, I was saying, what are topics that you love to talk about? And you mentioned the word hospitality. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's so many directions I could go with this because I just love this idea of welcoming and loving people well and just kind of blowing their minds with generosity. I'm afraid to use generosity always wins. And to be radically generous is such a beautiful thing. The story I like to tell is when we were down in Disney World actually with my dad's company. He had brought a client down there, and it was a family trip. So I would
imagine you guys got some decent little vacations out of this whole deal he was doing.
He traveled a lot, but one of the perks was we often got to go with him, or with all the miles and everything, it made it possible for us to experience some pretty cool things. Yeah. But this particular trip was a family trip, so we actually came down with him and we're working the program with him. And I'll never forget, I was sitting at the hospitality desk and this family comes up totally distraught, one of our clients, and their young daughter had spent like 3 days in Disney World getting signatures from all the different characters. She had this autograph book and she had lost it. And they were just so beside themselves. They had spent all this time. She was crying, and the dad kind of pulled me aside and he said, I know there's nothing really we could do, but we just wanted to let you know that we lost this. So if anyone finds it, just let us know. So I told my dad about it and he got this little smile on his face and he said, all right, don't worry about it. And he went off and he talked to his Disney representative and they said, great, we'll take care of it. So the next morning when they came back from the park, or the next evening when they came back to the park, they walked into their hotel room and her bed had been totally transformed into this little Disney experience. Stuffed animals, candy, all the things, all this kind of knickknacks from Disney. And right in the center of the bed was an autograph book with all the characters had signed it. And they looked just like they had before. And what the Disney guy had done is he had just gone back to one of their autograph people. They'd filled out the book. And what they wanted to do is make sure that this little girl went home with an autograph book, right? Now think about the effect of that. This happened basically 20 years ago. I've told this story countless times. My dad has told this story countless times. That family has told this story countless times. Sure. And what does it do? It just instills this unbelievable level of like, whoa, it cost them maybe $100 Disney for all the knickknacks and everything and a little bit of time. Yeah. But my goodness, the brand power and the hospitality and the just overflowing of goodwill just is huge. And so the adage we like to use, that I like to use, is what is the 12 out of 10 experience? I got this from Airbnb. They call it the 12 out of 10. So everybody can sense of like, okay, if you were remodeling a kitchen and the client gave you a 7 out of 10, what would that look like? Okay, what would that feel like? Okay, what would be an 8 out of 10? And define it. What would be a 9 out of 10? What would we expect? And Airbnb does it like this. So they say like a 9 out of 10 is
even that exercise at your next team meeting with production with your designers. Can we just define what a 9 out of 10 remodeling experience looks like? Let's actually write it out. Let's go. That exercise is very powerful. 12 out of 10. Go ahead.
Yeah. So and the reason you want to start with like 7, 8, and 9 is you want to start to see what that looks like compared to beyond that. And so Airbnb would say like 9 out of 10 is you show up, it's clean, it looks like it actually looks, there's a key at the door, maybe some bottles of water, and the vacation is fun. 10 out of 10 is, the key's ready for you, there's a bottle of wine waiting for you, and it's actually bigger than you expected, and there's a list of all the restaurants that are in the area, and there's like a little gift card to say, here's our favorite coffee shop down the road, hope you have fun. 10 out of 10. What's 11 out of 10? Well, the guests actually paid for you to get the Uber from the airport. There's 2 bottles of wine and a bottle of bourbon because they looked you up ahead of time and they knew that that's what you like to drink. They've already made a reservation for you at the local restaurant, and go on and on. 12 out of 10 is, my gosh, they had a stretch limo pick you up, and not only did you thought you were just getting a room, but they actually gave you the whole house, and they paid for somebody to come and clean it while you were gone to make sure it felt like a hotel, so you came back with fresh sheets. And you can start to build this, and by the time you're done defining a 12 out of 10, all of a sudden 10 out of 10 seems very reasonable. All of a sudden 9 out of 10 so like, how could we ever not get that? And so in the remodeling world, to say like, what would it look like for a 9 out of 10? Okay, then what's a 10 out of 10? And then go beyond it, 11, 12, and get ridiculous. So even go 13, 14. What is this like kind of earth-shattering, mind-blowing experience? Well, then when you look at that, actually, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 seems very reasonable, and there's no reason we couldn't implement it.
And it's still amazing. Yeah. So when you say generosity always wins, you're saying, look, you can't, if you're overly generous with your time, with your effort, this applies with what you're just talking about with your clients. There's a direct correlation with your employees as well. Generosity always wins. Even running a business from a posture of, we are a generous business. We sometimes take short-term losses, if you will, quote unquote, because we know long-term generosity always wins, whether it's with the clients referring us more or coming back to us with more work, or us just feeling really good about what we did and knowing that it was the right thing to do. And also with team members, you could be very generous with a team member and they could find a new opportunity and leave you 30 days later. You could have the mentality of, that's a bunch of crap. Or you could have the mentality of, look, hey, generosity always wins. That's not going to change how we approach life and business.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I can't think of an example where I know somebody who was like radically generous and then regretted it.
Yeah.
Like I maybe there's stories out there that I've just never heard, but I've never encountered a business owner. I've never encountered a parent. I've never encountered, a pastor or anybody who would be like, yeah, I was really generous in this time and I wish I hadn't been.
Yeah.
More times than not, people are more like, gosh, I wish I had just spent a little bit more money on this, or gosh, why didn't I just spend that a little extra time? Or most of the time people are regretting not being generous as opposed to the other way around.
There you go. If you vehemently disagree with generosity always wins, go ahead and send your letters into Remodelers on the Rise. We'll read them live on air, and I'll invite Pete back, and he can rebuttal all of the stories. I don't know if we're going to hear that now. Okay. So hospitality, that was an excellent little, some takeaways there for some people. Tell me about mentorship.
Yeah, I mean, again, one of those
taking
words,
these big concepts where you're like, dude, I could do a whole podcast episode and interview on that. I could do my own episode, but we're going around the horn a little bit and just getting your best little item.
Yeah, I love it. Mentorship, again, like kind of like leadership, it's like 1,000 different ways to understand it and describe it. And maybe I'll do it this way, is to say, I just think as a leader, you're not only forming somebody in a mindset or even a skill set, but you're trying to kind of form them holistically into people that can accomplish and move with you on the path that you've set out. And then ultimately, ideally, would be able to continue down that path, whether or not you're there to do it with them. And I think people learn things, and we make this mistake all the time with formation or mentorship, is people learn things best in three ways, in a combination of all three of those things: in a classroom, with as an apprentice, and then with immersion. So you need to teach somebody something, you need to tell it to them, describe it to them, you need to model it with them, do it with them, and then they need to go do it themselves. And so often we cut out one of those steps. I would say the step that we most often cut out is the mentorship piece. We often teach somebody something and then say, now go do it, and then wonder why they don't know how to do it. And again, it's slower and less efficient to do it this way. But the cycle of actually leveling up in business or in life is, I've been taught something, I've been able to do it with somebody who knows how to do it, and now I'm being asked to do it. And as I do it, I'm going to fail for sure. We shouldn't be surprised by failure. Failure is inevitable. So when we fail at some level, it begins the cycle again. Okay, what didn't I know? What didn't get modeled for me? And to be able to create that cycle of classroom, apprenticeship, and immersion, when woven together, that's when people really learn something. And unfortunately, a lot of times, if you think about our school system, it's just basically sit here and listen to something, as opposed to winding together that apprenticeship part of it and that immersion to try it themselves. And so I just think it's fundamentally important in any organization to be thinking about what is that trickle-down leadership. And trickle-down leadership is best thought through a process of mentorship, which is a process of learning, which would require the three things that I described.
Love it. Love it. And I think the smart business owners, smart remodelers who are recognizing this business is going to be less, if it continues to grow and it's done in a way that doesn't add stress and anxiety and workload to myself, the only way for this business to grow and for that to be true is to really have people that are excellent leaders around me, that I can trust, that I can develop. And so what I heard there is, man, think about what do I need to teach some of the team members around me? There's probably one that pops up for each of them. How do I apprentice? How do I mentor? How do I model this and not rush through that? I do, you watch, you do, I help, those types of things. And then once we've really let that sit, because I agree with you, that's the part that we skip over. Or we rush through. Hey, I showed you how to do that. You good? Yeah, yeah, boss, I'm good. And there they go. And wait, how did I do that? What should I do there? So really, sometimes that slowing down actually speeds things up in the long term. So keep that in mind as you're mentoring, as you're teaching, and also think practically, what is the thing for me? What is the thing that Bailey on my team I could teach and that she can grow in? What's the thing that Cassie, what's the one thing that could really empower her to do more in her role? That's a good leadership question to really slow down and frankly ask them as well. Mentorship, that's good. That's good, Pete. Pete, we've used some basketball analogies. I've talked football at the start. We talked Alabama football. You also threw some baseball in there. So I'll keep with the baseball analogy, kind of, hey, we're rounding third, heading home here on this podcast. See? See?
Well done.
See what I did there? Fun factoid. Let's go back to your Celine. You were
I was just about to ask, is there a baseball factoid? Yeah.
Except this was, so you're more from Ypsilanti, which right next door to Ypsilanti is Pioneer / Ann Arbor High back in the day. Back in the 1960s, this left-hander for Ann Arbor High went on to be drafted into the MLB. What is his name?
Jim Abbott.
Uncle Rick. My Uncle Rick. Man, I come from
look at you.
Stock. Man, I come from all these athletes around
Uncle
me.
Rick. Yeah.
Uncle Rick. I don't know exactly. He got drafted. I think he hurt his arm. If Uncle Rick's listening, he can inform me on the details, but he never quite made it. He did teach.
Shout out to Uncle Rick. Yeah.
Shout out to Uncle Rick, who had a fastball like this, a curveball like this,
two-seamer.
Slider. Yeah, and a little, that's the slider. That's the curve.
Right.
Now, if you're watching the video, you just saw me hold a Rawlings official ball of the Eastern League. Now, why I have this, I don't recall, but there we go. It's behind me. Round and third, heading home. Pete, I have a feeling that you're pretty well read. What's a favorite leadership-y related book that you just love, or that, you know what, I've read this one a few times because I like it so much. I need to keep being reminded of it. Is there one that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I'm going to throw a curveball right back at you. It's a guy named Patrick Lencioni.
Yes.
And many people know a lot of his leadership books. They're very good. The Advantage, 4 Dysfunctions of a Team, or 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. Those are all really good.
Yeah.
And you probably have them on your shelf right now.
Well, I got this one. It's kind of a funny one. It's called Getting Naked.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yep.
That's a good one.
So I love Pat. I love the stuff that he has. But my favorite of his, this is where it's a curveball. It's on leadership, but it's called The 3 Big Questions of a Frantic Family. And it's a fable about him applying the lessons of business to his family life. And it totally rocked my marriage in the best way. We had one of the best date nights we've ever had in discussing it. I've referred to it often. And the reason I would recommend it is because there's tons of books out there for how you can scale your business and do all that stuff. Like, go for it. But if your home life isn't strong either, that's going to be a problem. And your business will suffer if your marriage and your children and the home life isn't strong. And so one of the best things you can do to strengthen your business is to strengthen your marriage and strengthen your family life, because that happy home will help you lead to building and remodeling other happy homes. And this book was just one of those just awesome concepts of how to organize a family life that came at a great time for us, and I think would be an asset to anyone listening.
Love it. Love it. Success in business will never compensate for failure at home is a quote that I think is very, it's always been attractive to me to think about that. And that book probably harkens on that a little bit. And also, if you kind of like that idea of stepping away with your spouse, February 2026, it's coming up in no time. Come to the Remodel Your Marriage, Life, and Business Conference down in Franklin, Tennessee. My wife and I are putting that on, Pete. Isn't that fun?
Awesome. Yeah, I love that.
It will be fun. We've done it. We did it one other time. We offered a money-back guarantee. If you get divorced as a result of this marriage conference in the next 90 days, we refund the full amount. But nobody got divorced. So we'll see. The same offers on the table.
Wow. Yeah, I can't say that that's bold. it would be horrible if people came away. I mean, I'm really glad you stand behind that conference.
I'd be happy to write the check to you, but very sad that I'm writing the check.
Yeah, that'd be a terrible check to write.
I might even have to do it this time of like, I'll triple whatever you paid us just to help with the lawyer fees or something. I don't know.
Exactly.
No, that's not the point of it. And then Pete, how do you said you got 5 kids. You're kind of, I'm sure that keeps you busy. What's been the key for you as far as finding time to read and kind of get into books and whatnot? Are you a book on tape guy, or do you just make it a priority, or what?
Yeah, all the above. I love audiobooks. I love podcasts as like bite-sized types of things like that. And then, I mean, really, I fly a lot, so I'm on the road, so I'm able to do it while I'm traveling. That's on airplanes and different things like that. And then just kind of finding those moments. The kids are down before even my wife and I start a show to read a chapter of a book here or there. And then actually I take time during the workday to read and to grow. I think it's important as a leader that like I'm investing in myself. And so when I find those little down moments, it might be like 2:00 in the afternoon and be like, I know there's 1,000 things to do, but I'm not sure what the one thing is today. So then I'll just read a little bit,
read 5 pages
to reset it, just to kind of give me something, it's a little inspiration, and go from there.
That's good. I have I find when I'm on an airplane that I do my best work for some reason. There's something about being up there. So I have a goal before I'm 50, which is I got 8 years to do it, that I'm going to get on a plane. I'm going to get a flight to like Australia or somewhere crazy. And I'm going to write a book on the way there and back. You heard it here first on the Remodelers on the Rise show. I'm recording this on September 2nd, 2025. It's going to happen in the next 8 years.
Dude, I tell you what, that's a long flight. It is a long flight. Yes.
Never done it.
Yes. Yeah, it's an experience.
Is there a better place I should fly that would be like knowing that goal?
Well, the problem no, I don't know. I mean, I guess as long as you're willing to take some coffee or something to kind of give you the juice you need. I mean, you could probably just do it depends on how long the book is too, you know? I mean, that's
right. I mean, I could write a book in the first 2 hours and just call it, all right, I'm done. We'll see.
Have you written a book yet? Do you have a book?
I have not. I've written a lot of content over the years. For those of you who are personal friends with me on Facebook, I'm on day 298 of writing and posting a devotional post. Big 300 coming up pretty soon. We should be friends on Facebook,
book.
Pete.
It's a daily thought.
Well, there is that. So we'll see. I do want to write a book after 28 years of coaching remodelers on the remodeling side. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. It's a big undertaking, and there's only so much capacity, right? And I think when we think of here to there, when we think of vision, when we think of goals, there is only so much time in the day. When we talk even about like success in business should not be at the expense of success at home. And there's times where even though I'd love to do that, man, if I started doing that, all of a sudden, everything else would be cramped. I don't know if I've ever told this story. I've told it to some of my friends, but I remember I had a goal. I sat in church. This is probably 6-7 years ago, and must have been a boring sermon. And I was kind of distracted. I was looking through. I think I had just gotten a new Bible too, and I'm like, so the New Testament's 300 pages, and it was like the first of the month. And I'm like, if I just read 10 pages a day, I'm going to read this whole New Testament in like 30 days. I'm just going to sometimes reading, all at once like that versus bite-sized chunks is helpful. And I did it. Pete. I did it.
Wow. Good job.
Thank you. You know what else happened that month?
I have no idea.
I was an absolute jerk. I
was going to guess
kids,
that, but actually.
Shut up. Dad's trying to read his Bible. I got to read 10 days today. Sarah, just sit. I'll get there in a minute. I just remember that goal became so obsessive that I also turned into an idiot that month. So make sure we pay attention to capacity. Make sure we're not taking on too much. And also make sure that you take something that you heard during this wonderful podcast and everything that Pete shared and grab one of the items and implement it into your business. I can see just a lot of takeaways of you as a leader sitting in front of your team members and brainstorming some of this here to there, brainstorming some of this 8, 9 out of 10, 12 out of 10, and finding some ways to really kind of enhance and be a remodeler on the rise, if you will. Pete, what would be a final thought from you? It could be if you hear nothing else out of what I shared, I really want to emphasize this, or it could be another little nugget of knowledge that you want to share. And then tell us a little bit more about what you do and kind of where they can find more about you.
Yeah, well, I had one of my favorite things my dad ever shared with me was he said, Pete, you need to be a good man, not a nice guy. And maybe I'll leave that with all of you is just be good. Grow in what it is to be good and virtuous and kind and loving, merciful, just, hardworking, honest. Goodness is just so foundational to life, and it's so foundational to, I think, good business and all of that. And certainly we can give examples of maybe people we would say aren't good who have been successful. But have they really? It's like by one metric, yes, but maybe by others, no. So my encouragement would be to really dive into what does it mean to be good and not just nice. And then
Cassie, you're listening to this, I'm pretty sure that's our podcast title right there. Except say good guy / gal, because
person.
It'll be
a good person.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, be good, not nice. And then if we're just trying to, the way I would put it is we're just trying to do what God's asking us to do, and not go through the doors that He's opening, and not run into the wall too often. And so if somebody was interested more about kind of what we're about, where you could go to renewalministries.net or find us. We're all over social media and different things, and we're just trying to help people respond to what we feel like God has asked us to do. And it's been a great gift to be, as a vice president, I kind of do everything and nothing, right? I'm kind of responsible for all and not responsible for anything. Just wear a lot of different hats, and but it's a joy.
Some would say you're so busy that you just find time to read during the day.
I know.
That's vice president material right there.
I mean, is the door open or what? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, so cool. It's been a very rich experience, and just trying to again go through life trying to be a good person and do what God's asking us to do and to do it well.
Awesome. Pete, that was fun. It's fun getting to meet you, and really appreciate what you shared.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. It was a joy.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.